Hey, what's up everybody? It's Brandon and welcome back to another episode of Murata Media. And today I am doing a review of my most anticipated movie of the year, The Lighthouse. And just to get in the spirit, I think there's only one way to review this movie. That's so much better. So The Lighthouse is the second film from director Robert Eggers, whose first movie, The Witch, came out in 2016. And The Witch was kind of a polarizing movie. Many said it was a masterpiece, and many said it was the worst movie they had ever seen. I, on the other hand, thought that The Witch was amazing. The acting in it was terrific, it was very suspenseful and unique. I had never seen a movie like it, so I was already sold on The Lighthouse. And so The Lighthouse tells the story of these two men, Thomas Wake, played by Willem Dafoe, and Ephraim Winslow, played by Robert Pattinson, who are sent to a remote island to keep an eye on this lighthouse. But as the weeks start to slowly pass by, both of them begin to lose their sanity. And we are treated with stellar performances from our two leads. I can easily see both of them being nominated for Best Actor in a few months. Willem Dafoe was fantastic, but I personally thought that Robert Pattinson stole the show here. Because at the beginning of the movie, his character is this quiet, calm and collected man who's just there to get his work done, so he just keeps his head down and does his job. And it's really interesting to see him slowly evolve into this desperate man who's losing his mind. Both of them had such great chemistry with one another as well. And as a result, we get some very surprisingly funny moments. There are scenes where the two of them just bicker at each other like children. There's one scene in particular where Pattinson's character mentions that he doesn't really care for Dafoe's character's cooking, and this really sets him over the edge, and he just goes into this incredible monologue. And while the humor can be clever here, it also doesn't really shy away from making a few fart jokes. Because I'm not kidding, right at the beginning, right when we meet Thomas Wake, we're introduced to him by him taking a minute-long piss and proceeding to walk out of the room and let out a fart. And he farts several times throughout the whole movie. And I'm not usually a fan of fart jokes, but here they just felt so out of place, but in a good way, that I just couldn't help but laugh. And the dialogue between these two characters is just remarkable. I mentioned before that Dafoe goes into this long monologue in one scene, and both of them have quite a few monologues, and when they break into these things, you just sit there in awe because the acting from both of them is just breathtaking. Robert Eggers actually studied the banter of actual lighthouse keepers based off their journal entries. He did the exact same thing for The Witch because both of these movies have the particular tongue that was accustomed to the time. And that can be a negative in points because there were quite a few scenes where I didn't really understand what the two of them were saying, but I never felt like I was lost or didn't know what was happening in the story. And to complement the acting, The Lighthouse has some of the most beautiful cinematography that I have seen all year. This movie was shot on 35mm black and white film and on a 1:19:1 aspect ratio. And the aspect ratio really adds to it because you're kind of just looking at this square. And I love that they made this choice because it really makes you focus on the actors. It doesn't really want you to focus on anything that's going on around them. It just wants you to look at them. And how can you not when the performances here are just so good? And the ratio also gives this kind of claustrophobic vibe to it, almost as if you feel enclosed in the frame. I've seen a few interviews with Robert Eggers, and he talks about the set, and he mentions that all of the sets that you see were built. I don't know if that includes the lighthouse itself, but the set design just feels so authentic. And speaking of authentic, this movie takes it to a new level. The Lighthouse was shot on location in Nova Scotia, and there are quite a few scenes where it's raining pretty hard, and all the elements you see are the actual elements. It was actually raining in several of the scenes. On the scene when both of them are standing outside and it's just pouring rain, and at the Toronto International Film Festival, Robert Eggers mentioned that the weather in that scene was real. I honestly could not tell what was faked and what wasn't, because if there was anything that was faked, it certainly did not feel like it was. The sound design is also one of the highlights. The ocean roaring, the blare of the lighthouse's horn, the shriek of a mermaid. There were certain scenes where it's just so deafening and you feel as if you're in the room with them. The editing is fantastic too. All of the scenes flow so smoothly from one to the other. And I can't talk about The Lighthouse without talking about its score. This is a very, very memorable score. All of the songs that are played fit the scene that they were put in very well. You can almost hear the songs in your head and picture the scene that they correspond to. And I really loved The Lighthouse's ending. And this is where I'm going to get into spoilers and talk about my interpretation of the ending. So if you don't want The Lighthouse spoiled for you, then I highly recommend that you skip to this part of the video. So the ending kind of put everything together for me. The way I interpreted the ending is that both of the keepers are in purgatory. And in the movie, it's mentioned that Ephraim Winslow is not his real name, and in fact, he stole the identity of a person he used to work with. And so he took this job to begin anew and to start over and to just move on with his life. And I saw Thomas Wake almost as if this devilish character, because he constantly torments him and he tempts him with the light that he's obsessed with. And as Winslow starts to become more and more obsessed with the light, that is what slowly starts to drive him down the road of madness. So I believe that Winslow thought that the light could help him move on and lead him down this path of salvation and redemption. But when he finally kills Wake and he looks into the light, he starts laughing maniacally. And the reason I think he was laughing is because he realized that the light meant nothing. All of it was just one giant trick. And he's laughing so hard because he realizes just how much of an idiot he truly is. And he suffers the ultimate consequence for it because he falls down the stairs and has his insides eaten out by seagulls. There's a lot of parallels in the ending to Greek mythological stories. Prometheus, Icarus, I even found some Adam and Eve-like vibes from it, but I thought the ending was so wild and I loved it. And like I mentioned before, the only real thing that I have to complain about was there were just a few scenes where I didn't quite understand the dialogue, but I never found myself lost or confused as to what was happening. But overall, guys, The Lighthouse is a phenomenal movie. Robert Eggers is a genius. Everything in this film is done to perfection. And for that reason, I am very comfortable giving The Lighthouse a 10 out of 10. What a film. What a film. I can't wait to watch this thing again. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching my review of The Lighthouse. If you guys saw it, tell me, did you love it just as much as I did? And how did you interpret the ending? If you like this review, then be sure to hit that thumbs up button and that subscribe button. If you guys want to check out my past reviews, those will be linked right here. And other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.